Cheers for joining us, Charlotte. Good to see you. Nice to see your face. Shame it can't be face to face in these strange times, but appreciate you taking the time out. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure to sit down this morning and talk with you.
Yeah, two years ago. 2 years ago to the day, right? Pretty much.
Yes.
Cannabis was made legal in the UK, well, medicinal cannabis, and like, I think a lot of people here in the UK and a lot of people that followed that story don't realise that it's been 2 more years of battling. They kind of think that everything was resolved 2 years ago. So I thought it'd be useful for you to kind of give a bit of an update on what's happened since then. Everybody knows the story before then. Everybody knows what happened on that day and that change that was made. But I think it'd be interesting to find out what's gone on since then. I appreciate that might be quite a big story, but to give us the main sort of flashpoint.
Yeah, I try and just keep it, to like key points as best as I can. I should say it is such a big story, and it's been such a long journey that might be quite difficult for me to do, but I'll try and not wander off. So yes, obviously, like Billy got the first prescription, NHS prescription for medical cannabis. First of all, that happened in April 2017, and he which was prescribed by his GP, and Billy continued to thrive on the medicine right through until May 2018. And May 2018, I was informed by Billy's GP that he wasn't allowed to continue to write his prescription for medical cannabis any longer. So that pushed us, pushed Billy, rather I should say, into a crisis situation where he had literally 3 weeks medicine left. And I obviously was blogging about it on Billy's social media. And, Steve Moore from the Centre of Medical Cannabis, Steve started talking to me, and at that stage the Department of Health in Northern Ireland had informed me that if I could find another medical cannabis product for Billy that had been through a clinical trial, they would be willing to continue supporting that on the NHS. But of course, at that stage, Paul, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find a medical cannabis product for Billy that had been through a clinical trial. But mum on a mission, I actually just scoured the globe, and eventually I found a product in Canada manufactured by Tilray. Mm-hmm. And a doctor that had done like an observational study with a number of kids with refractory epilepsy, like Billy, with that product. So I flew Billy to Canada, and the doctor, after a long assessment, the doctor prescribed the Tilray medical cannabis product for Billy, and we returned to the UK. And it was then that Billy had his medicine confiscated at London Heathrow Airport, which within a number of days, Billy was in a crisis situation. He went into a full-blown grand mal status seizure and had to be rushed to the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, where the doctors were literally treating him with their hands tied behind their back, because the medicine that was controlling his seizures was actually in the vaults of the Home Office.
Yeah. I remember that day. That was like a terrifying day. I remember being in the taxi with all the Volteface crew.
Yeah.
Bombing it over to the hospital. That must have been a hell of a traumatic experience. And also for you, I guess, knowing that there was so much media attention and so much media involved, that you were almost filling 2 roles, weren't you? You were a mum, and you were kind of happy for Billy, but also you were front and center of something that was pretty huge. So that must have been a pretty intense. How long was it? It was like 2 weeks, wasn't it? I guess that sort of stuff.
Yeah. But I think for me, Paul, it was absolutely, I was devastated that Billy had, I remember the ambulance had been blue lighted to the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. And, like I genuinely believed in my heart that we had lost him because he was in such a bad way. And it was thankfully the doctor at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital and Steve Moore it was with their negotiation skills, really, that Billy's medicine was returned to him via a taxi from the vaults of the Home Office to the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, and that happened on the Saturday morning, and you know, by Saturday night, Billy was starting to perk up, and by Sunday he was eating his food, and Monday morning he ran out through the doors of the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital to meet the world's press. He was just totally recovered and back to the way he was when he was on his medical cannabis. And Billy had got his NHS prescription back. That was him reinstated. And what followed was there was 2 other families campaigning to have their medical cannabis, their children access medical cannabis. And they weren't able to do that. They had tried everything, but a number of weeks later to access the medicine as well for their kids, which we were absolutely delighted about. And we, you know, I truly believe that that was the start, that a lot more, you know, access would open up and there'll be a lot more prescriptions. I remember when, so on Billy's birthday, which was the 26th of July, 2018, Billy's 13th birthday, Sajid stood up and announced he was going to change the law, which was, you know, just, that was the best birthday present that Billy could ever have. It was just incredible. And on the 1st of November, he kept to his word. They changed the law. But unfortunately for Billy, in October 2018, his seizures started to break through, and I returned him to his neurologist in Belfast, and it, you know, she was like, well, I'm not an expert on this medicine, and I don't know what to do. And I said, look, I think I should take him back to the expert in Canada and have him reassessed, because something has seriously gone wrong here.
This was the same medication. It was the same cannabis medication.
Yes.
It just wasn't having the right.
Yeah. So I returned Billy. The law was changed on the 1st of November 2018. I returned Billy to Canada on the 2nd of November 2018. And after a lengthy consultation again and assessment with the medical expert there in the medicine, Billy was transitioned to a new medical cannabis product. Now, she then furnished Billy's medical team in Belfast with all the relevant information, the reason that he was transitioned, the formulation of the medicine, etc. And I got a call from the Department of Health in Northern Ireland telling me that Billy's doctor would not be supporting his medical cannabis prescription any longer because of the new law change on the 1st of November, which, well, there was 2 things. They stated to me that there was no clinical trial data and that the new BPNA guidelines, so Billy would not be not allowed, because of the new law change, he would not be allowed to continue having his medical cannabis on the NHS any longer. So
you'd just be in the same position as you were last time when you went out to Canada, that you'd bring the medication back and it'd be seized at customs. They'd say that's an illegal drug.
Yeah. So they told me that if I were to return Billy to the UK without a doctor supporting his prescription for medical cannabis, they would have me arrested, and the medicine would be taken off me. Now, so we ended up being exiled in Canada for 4 months, and I lost count of how many emails and calls I made to NHS paediatric neurologists and private paediatric neurologists in the UK. And eventually in January 2019, a private paediatric neurologist came forward and said that they were willing to write a prescription. This is the man himself, look.
Hey, Billy.
So that they were willing to write a prescription for Billy, so I could bring him home legally and safely. So that was So in February 2019, we were allowed to return home to return home to the UK. So that was it. So sorry, Paul, can you just pause there 1 second, because he's just pulled something off the top. 1 second. What was February 2019? We were allowed to return home.
Yeah.
And so then what? So hang on, Paul. Now let me get back into my stride. You can cut this
big story. When I asked the question, I was like, "Oh man, this is a difficult question." There's so much gone on. There's so much to digest.
Yeah.
But at that point, when you came back, then you had a valid prescription again that Billy could use.
It was a private. Yes, we had a private prescription. That's how I was able to return Billy home safely and legally to the UK.
A private NHS prescription.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, but in the meantime, what I was finding it very difficult to understand and comprehend was the other two families that had received their NHS prescriptions when Billy had his confiscated and Billy's changed the law, were allowed to continue to have their medical cannabis on the NHS, and Billy wasn't. And to this day, Paul, I still don't know why that happened.
What do you suspect? Like, what was your...
I have no idea. I have no idea, because the 1st of November was the law change, which the reasons that I was given as Billy's mummy, that his his NHS doctor was not prepared to support his NHS prescription for medical cannabis any longer. The reasons were there was no clinical trial data to warrant a child accessing medical cannabis on the NHS, and because of the new BPNA guidelines that were issued on the 1st of November as well with the new law change. But if it applies to one child, if Billy had his removed, well, surely that should apply to everybody. Do you understand? So to me, that was a great injustice that was done against Billy. And again, I don't know why, and I have yet to find the answer for that. But I'm sure one day I will. I'm sure the truth will come out one day. But I continued from February, when we arrived back in the UK, I continued then from February 2019 to June 2019 to campaign with political parties, etc. Unfortunately for us here in Northern Ireland, we had no executive. At that stage, we had no government. So, at that stage, Billy and I both were absolutely exhausted, and we had exhausted every single avenue. So we entered into a legal process to try and have his NHS prescription reinstated. That was a long, torturous ordeal. There is no patient in the UK should have to go through that ordeal to access life-saving medicine. But Paul, I have to commend Matt Hancock, because Matt Hancock, from what our sources is telling us, on the back of Billy's court case, he genuinely did not want to see any other family going through a torturous court case. So he set up what's called as a RESCAS expert panel, which is a panel that set up at Great Ormond Street with some of the most eminent doctors in the UK are on that expert panel. And it's a refractory epilepsy clinical service whereby if the the treating NHS paediatric neurologist feels that a child with refractory epilepsy like Billy could benefit from medical cannabis or any other new treatments, that the paediatric neurologist, the NHS paediatric neurologist, can refer the patient there, and they have a discussion. And in a way, I suppose, for example, with medical cannabis, it's so as the NHS doctor would feel more confident prescribing, if that makes sense. Yeah. So RESCAS is guiding them. It's a group of eminent doctors. So Billy, I got Billy referred there, and thankfully Billy got a positive outcome, and he then got his NHS funding reinstated. So, and of course, it was a huge relief for us. But unfortunately, it took nearly 2 years. In fact, this morning, Paul, I'm just going to send you a photograph in a minute. This morning, Billy got delivered to our gate here at our house, the first bottle of medical cannabis on the NHS from the law change on the 1st of November 2018. So today is I think it's the 31st of October today, and tomorrow's the 1st of November, as you know. So yeah. I'll send you the picture in a minute. So today is a momentous day for us. But however, since Billy started his journey on medical cannabis, I have committed myself to helping hundreds of patients. I have a number of groups of patients with MS, epilepsy, ADHD, PTSD, fibromyalgia, chronic pain. I support hundreds of patients, and my heart is with them, because albeit that Billy has got his back, he got it, reinstated. There is still thousands. In fact, there's 1.4 million patients, as we're all aware, that are treating themselves with medical cannabis that actually desperately need access on the NHS. Also,
remarkable.
But there's been a lot of work done since Billy's campaign, which you were part of, Paul, in June 2018. Before Billy had his medicine confiscated at London Heathrow Airport, there was no medical cannabis industry in the UK. Yeah. There was nothing. And if we look back over 2 years, how much it has actually progressed. We now have a number of private clinics, which is fantastic, albeit these patients need it on the NHS, but we do have access now. We have private clinics. We have a number of UK pharmaceutical facilities that are now making and manufacturing, producing medical cannabis, which means the price has come down drastically. For example, Rockshaw, AMAC Life Sciences, launched last week a new product range. And I now support patients that are actually accessing their medicine for as little as 80 pence, or £1, £1.60 per day. But and I can't emphasize enough. Yes, we need it on the NHS, but this is now, there is a 2-tier system, which is unfair. But this is now definitely, opening up access even more. So, those guys, AMAC Life Sciences, Rockshaw, they're doing incredible work, absolutely incredible.
It's definitely, it's been, I guess the thing I reflect on whenever I speak to you and kind of catch up is just the longevity of the battle that you've gone through and the resilience that you and Billy have shown. This is not, I think a lot of people think that this was kind of a bit of campaigning and then suddenly it happened, but this has been such a process and journey. And I think you're right in the reflections around medicinal cannabis on the whole. It is a journey. We were never gonna get a system that overnight would just supply those 1.4 million people with cannabis. It would be great. That would be great. But I think we'll get there one day, won't we? We will get to that point. We will, through persistent campaigning and awareness raising, and as access grows, price will come down.
Yeah, and I think what's really important as well is, Paul, now for me, when I look, education of our doctors are really, really important. I think we need to be getting this on the curriculum for our student doctors when they're training, when they're doing their doctorates at university. It needs to go on the curriculum. I think that we need to now really urgently start gathering the data We need to start looking at some form of clinical trials, well, or observational studies. We need to really just keep moving this forward now, because the way I see it as medical cannabis, it should be one of the tools in the box that our GPs can use. That's where it should be. It shouldn't be also, you know, as I say, I listen to hundreds of stories on a monthly basis. It shouldn't be where you have to try all of these opiates and pharmaceuticals that are not working, and then you're allowed to try medical cannabis. I think it should be one of the first tools in the box for or GPs to be able to prescribe to these chronically, desperately ill patients.
Yeah, I agree completely. Education's key, isn't it? Education and a willingness.
Yeah, and I think as well, Paul, what's really important for me is campaigning. When you're campaigning, is to do it with, you know, be open, be honest, and be transparent. You know, I see the narrative at the moment in the UK seems to be, you know, that patients have to pay £2,000-3,000 a month for their medicine. Well, we know it's not true. We know that day is gone. We know that Rockshaw, as an example, IPS is another pharmaceutical company. For example, they're now from the Netherlands bringing in like the flower and the bud, and they're actually making medicine in their facility, which is you know, and I can't express this enough. This is really important for people who think you know, that they can't afford it, it's out of reach. This is really important, Paul, that those patients are told the truth. Look, you can actually access this medicine now for 80 pence a pound, £1.60 per day. Because what's happening is, while that narrative is allowed to continue, Paul, in the media, in the UK, we are actually doing the chronically ill patients, we are doing them a disservice, because we have thousands of people sitting at home, hundreds of thousands of people in wheelchairs, chronically ill people who are like, will I never be able to afford £2,000 a month? Do you understand me?
Yeah,
and that narrative, to me, we know, we're all very aware that every patient needs this on the NHS, not just Billy, every patient needs it on the NHS. But we have got to change that narrative of the cost of the medicine, because if we don't, Paul, we're doing those thousands of patients a disservice. And it's really, really sad that our media is not picking up on this and changing the narrative. It's because it's not £2,000 a month, it's not £3,000 a month. And I want to say as well, Paul, to some of the clinics, the private clinics in the UK, who are now writing prescriptions for children with refractory epilepsy, like Billy, for £3,000 a month. Stop. Just stop it. Because I had a mother on the phone to me last week, Paul. I'm not going to name any names. This is just an example of what's happening in the UK. That they went to a private medical cannabis clinic. They'd contacted some people via social media. They advised them to go to this particular clinic. The patients, the mother and father had a Zoom consultation with the clinic, and they ended up with a prescription for £3,000 a month, Paul, for a 10-year-old boy. And I am completely horrified that we have doctors who are supposed to know better, doing this, writing these prescriptions in the UK for that, and putting a family under that much pressure. So that today, that's really important for me, Paul. Yeah. So that's why what I'm trying to say is, it's so important that we campaign with honesty and transparency. This has to stop.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And what should be at the forefront is the needs of patients, not the need to capitalise on the needs of patients. Like
absolutely, Paul. You know, I am horrified at what's going on, but you know, Paul, it's allowed to continue. It is allowed to continue because our media in the UK are not doing their research. The journalists are not researching. They're not saying, well, hang on a minute, you know, they're not thinking we're actually doing the patients. There's 1.4 million patients they're not seeing that we're actually doing them a disservice by letting that narrative continue.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think what I was going to ask you was kind of what's next, but I think you kind of answered that question in what's next is raising awareness of what is available and fighting back against some of those misconceptions that exist around medicinal cannabis, and the fact that it is available and it is affordable for a lot of people. There are options, but the £3,000 is unbelievable. Are they just charging that because they can? Is that just like opportunistic situation?
I think there's a number of clinics. There's one in particular that I know of that's associated with. They've set up their own import company.
Right.
So they're importing the medicine from global licensed producers around the world. And that's why the patients that go to that particular clinic are ending up with medicine at £2,000 and £3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Instead of that doctor, if that doctor who's writing that private prescription, and you all know who you are, just stop and think what you're doing to these patients and the pressure you're putting seriously chronically ill people under. It is beyond me, Paul, because those doctors are very aware that they can now pick up the phone to Rockshaw or IPS and the same medicine, albeit it's generic, it's a generic version. That's fine. We all have generic paracetamol. There's nothing wrong with that. So them doctors need to be starting to talk to the UK pharmaceutical facilities that are now making it more accessible to these patients. But that narrative has to stop, Paul. That nonsense has to stop what they're doing to our patients.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree.
When patients contact me, Paul, the first thing they say to me on the phone, they'll say, but Charlotte, I could never afford that. And I'm going, well, let me walk you through this. And they're saying, but it's £3,000 a month. It's £2,500 a month. And I'm going, it's not.
Yeah.
But that's what's in the public domain. And that's a big stumbling block. That's stopping our patients, Paul, the 1.4 million patients that we know of, that's stopping them picking up the phone and trying to get, access to medical cannabis and get some relief. And that's really sad. That's extremely sad.
And so it sounds like you're spending a lot of time still speaking to people who've got those questions then and still being a pillar of support for people that are trying to access that medication. Because I've used that Facebook page for you before, and that is a busy Facebook page. I think when I was admin on that, oh my God, there are so many messages you got on that page.
I know. It's Billy has an army of followers. That have they have stayed with us. Paul, and we are extremely grateful. They've prayed with us, they have cried with us, they have laughed with us, and they've clapped with us, and without them, we probably wouldn't be where we're at today, because they had so many, hundreds of thousands of messages of love and support for Billy, and that really has kept us going as well.
Well, well done to the both of you. Like the journey's been incredible, and it sounds like it's still going in many ways. You're still campaigning and working hard to increase access, increase awareness, educate people. But having said that, like, are you going to take a holiday or a break? Because it's been 2 non-stop years. Like, you must be at some point. You've got to put your feet up for a little bit, you and Billy.
Yeah. Well, look, I think what there's so much work to do, Paul, and I think, there's, albeit, we are extremely grateful that Billy now has got his NHS funding reinstated, which is the third time, by the way. Yeah. It's the third time for Billy. So I'm hoping it's third time lucky. But there are so many other patients that need access, and I'm just going to continue. It's my passion now, and I can't not help those people, and I can't, I can't not use my voice to actually, help those other patients get access.
Yeah, Yeah, well, good on you, Charlotte. You're inspirational character, and on behalf of me and the rest of the VF team, sending you lots of love and really
Thank you very much.
all the work you're putting in.
Okay, thank you. Nice to speak to you.
You too.